Hello, I'm gonna talk about the face. I got a request. Talk about Frank's faces and what do I think about them. So these are the two screenshots that were given to me. Personally, me when I see this face, it looks like Frank. That's my opinion. Here. Oh, and specifically too, how he drew faces. These two faces, and like, can I see the skull? Can I see evidence of the skull? This one you sort of can tell. I mean, it's not that you can't tell. You can tell, especially where he makes little indentations. And this one, um, this is a little different because here the facial features kind of take over. So I'll do a couple drawings on this right now, and I'll talk about it, and I'll talk about my that other face in terms of what I found. All right, so well, let me draw with pen. I like pen. I'll zoom in a little bit. Go. All right. So this is what I see. So I do see the orbital here, right? This is the interesting part, that part right there, because in the skull, there's actually like this little part, and forgive me, I know these shapes, I just don't know the names of the skeleton parts. This is the interesting part here. See this part right over here? Like if I had to draw a profile of the skull. Okay, so here, mandible, this part here, that's like that's a very interesting shape that we all have. Here it's connected to our cheekbone. So we can chew and eat. The interesting thing is so how Frank he still hints at these things. Right there. Super smart. So I mean for the most part, here and I'll put a drawing over it. I'll put a picture over this one. Sorry, a paper over this one and look at it again. So I'll see that. And this is animation paper, by the way, that I'm using. Just that little part that we're talking about. Like I said, Frank's pretty damn brilliant. There's a The guy knows what he's doing. Is these exercises that I would do on my own time and just be blown away, you know, like how even in his simplest sketches he can incorporate all this stuff. Mm, Put a little shading here. Anyway, as you can see, he knew his shit. I mean, excuse me, he knew his stuff. Freaking brilliant. The only artist that does this sort of stuff. It's really hard to. It's not that it's really hard. I mean, I don't know. It's not like I sit there and I seek out artists who apply this stuff. Either they turn up or they don't, and I've yet to see it. You know, and you can tell when they're just copying photographs and they don't really understand what they're doing. I mean, I'll do this so I can understand. All right, so that's one. The second one is this guy, right? So I was looking at these. So if I had to draw the skull on this one, to be honest with you, when I see this thing, I see the skull. I mean, all the little things are there. But then the rest is like real heavy facial features, right? And yeah, I can see this part. Still see this part. Alright, and then let's draw this part. Alright. Okay, let's put a picture over this one. I mean, sorry, picture. Let's put paper over this one. Let's see what we get. Alright, so first things first, right? So this type of facial feature, it actually has a lot of flesh, a lot of facial flesh. You don't see that in like Caucasians, in my opinion. Um, Caucasians that have a lot of they're very chiseled, you know. Um, and here's an example. So when I was looking at this, it's like, man, it looks a lot like native Australian people. So I found some pictures, right? And what's interesting is this area here. That's not, you see the bone right here, cheekbones, but the brows, that's heavy in flesh. I mean, I don't know the correct term. All I can say is that this is facial flesh. Check that out. You know, look at that. And you see the skull here. This is what I mean. Very chiseled dude. You can see all these little areas. And the facial flesh is less. When you get this guy, it's like it's heavy. Look at that. It's very meaty stuff. I mean, so I don't know if I want to say Frank looked at native Australian people, you know? Could be wrong, I don't know. All I know is that I see these faces, looks just like that, or was inspired by that. I don't know. It's an assumption, I don't know, but it helps me understand that, when drawing Neanderthals, right? You got any, and I don't even know if he wants to call them Neanderthals, I'm not quite sure. Alright, he has a smile on his face, so like we saw, there's like these parts here, the cheek. I find this area really interesting, you know, where the brow ridges are. Alright, and then here's the cheekbones. And I don't do this for all my drawings. I don't draw the skull and then go to town. I only do this to study. And right now this is exactly what I'm doing. This is how I study. I get this guy's stuff and I'm like, all right, it's time to validate how much of this holds up to, the skull and little guidelines that I'm doing. And it looks like it's holding up pretty dang well. All right. And if you notice, I'm not trying to draw like an exact replica of his drawings. I'm not trying to do that at all. What I'm trying to do is get the gist of it, right? I mean, I'm studying. I'm not trying to draw a portrait of this thing. I'm not trying to mimic this thing. If I was trying to do that, I might as well have just traced it, but that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to understand, by drawing the skull myself, drawing the facial features that I understand, and then putting another paper on top, and then just validating it. And it's not to catch Frazetta, um, not to catch him like he's wrong or anything. That's not his. Again, it's just so sweet to know that like in my studying, there's somebody out there that's already made a career who values the same things I value. And by no means does this make a great artist or anything. This I just appreciate it. That's what I value in artists and in people. It's education, And if you show when people show that type of love and interest, then I pay attention. And I only have maybe just a few artists that I would say do this stuff, and everybody does it. But hands down, out of all of them, it's Frank that's the best. Oh, Frank and Michelangelo. Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry. Yeah, Mike, hands down, is freaking awesome. Frank really liked Hal Foster, but I didn't really see it in Hal Foster's work. Hal Foster is like awesome in composition. I'm sorry, I don't mean to say that about Hal Foster. I'm sure he's awesome in every way, but it's just I didn't see it. If I did, I'd be studying it, but I didn't see it. Anyway, isn't that fascinating? So that's what I got. And the guy's a genius. And here are the skulls. You know, what's interesting about what I did here was how I pulled out those cheekbones. You know, how I kept this, I contained these, and this one I kind of pulled out. Well, I was looking online, and there's these skulls online. I thought were really fascinating. Give me a second. Okay, never mind. Can't find it. But yeah. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about just things that I see in Frank's work that kept validating how much he understood about the skull. So, I don't know if you guys know about Johnny Comet, but Frank illustrated this comic book called Johnny Comet, and it's all of it. And then here it's some really rich stuff. So let me go ahead and, well, here's one right here. I mean, I don't even have to look too far. Look at that. You guys see that little line right there? That's brilliant. See that? See the mandible thing? Brilliant. Real smart. I'll pick an interesting one. So Frank drew this young guy, but he also drew these old people too. And there was this specific head that I want to talk about. I think it's really awesome. Give me a second. Here we go. That's insane. Look at the top of his head. That's amazing. So I'll break this down. All right, so the pull out a bit. All right, so the skull has several parts to it. See this lump here? It's that, you know, when babies are born, there's this little soft spot here. Anyway, there's this little lump that goes like this, and then there's another one here, the back of our heads. These little things are freaking evident in the guy's work. If you look at the back, look at his head. Sorry, let me draw the rest of the skull so you guys know what I'm talking about. Okay. All right. So now what Frank did, a lesser artist, I think, would have done something like this. All right. That's what I think a lesser artist would have done. Kept it simple, don't really care, you know, whatever. But I think Frank Frazetta, he's no freaking, the guy, the guy's not lazy. The guy enjoyed anatomy. Instead, what Frank did was this. That lump right there. Bam. another one here. Bam. Can feel this part right here. Look at that. He knew there were 7 vertebrae here. He knew. Look at this line here. That right there. Brilliant. Brilliant. And then you get the rest of those cheeks. And because he knows about design and all that, he knew to cheat the nose. I mean, it could have easily been this, and then the nose comes out here, right? So we can see the rest of the skull. But he didn't do that. You know, he kept the shape true, and it was an excellent choice. And you know, this is very caricatured and pushed. But let me do another one here. That's not so pushed or caricatured. It's just brilliant, 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 brilliant. Anyway, let's take a look at some more. I'll do one more. Let's look at this drawing here. You can see the orbitals right there. Look at that.